الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. The last time we were speaking from Ad-Durar al-Bahiyyah في المسائل الفقهية, crystalline gems on matters of Islamic jurisprudence of Imam al-Qadi Muhammad ibn Ali al-Shawkani rahimahullah. We were talking about things which nullify your salah. And then we went on to mention people who are exempt from offering the salah. Muslims who do not have to pray, whether it is because of a temporary situation, a part-time scenario or circumstance, etc. Mental or physical state in which a person becomes exempt and not responsible for making the salah. And it's a very important chapter for us. The author, he says, فَصْلٌ وَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَى غَيْرِ مُكَلَّفٍ. The prayer isn't mandatory upon those who aren't called mukallafs. And the mukallaf, we said, is a person who is of age and who possesses sanity. Age and sanity. And we discussed this in detail last class. What makes a person of age? We discussed this in detail. He then says, وَتَسْقُطُ عَمَّنْ عَجَزَ عَنِ الْإِشَارَةِ. Those who cannot point or make a signal, they are not required to offer the salah. Those who do not have the ability to make a signal or gesture or movement with their fingers or their hands or their heads or something like this, then the author, rahimahullah, he says they don't have to pray. In other words, if a person was in a very bad car accident, they were lying on a hospital bed, they had their mental faculties, they were conscious, they were awake, but they couldn't move, temporarily paralyzed or bandaged or in a body cast. The author says they do not have to offer the salah. Everybody clear on this? We understand the author's kalam? They don't have to what? They don't have to offer the salah. And that which is apparent is that they're also exempt, Sheikh. They're also exempt from making up the salah, because he doesn't mention that they have to make it up once they come back to their state of physical or mental health. Everybody clear on this? طيب. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, وَعَمَّنْ أُغْمِيَ عَلَيْهِ حَتَّى خَرَجَ وَقْتُهَا. He says, and it is also, or it isn't obligatory upon those who fall unconscious until the prayer goes out, until the time of the salah leaves. In other words, you went to the coma, Dhuhr was in, you woke up, it's not Asr time. You're not responsible for making what? Salatul Dhuhr. Because you were unconscious until the time of the prayer what? Went away. Everybody clear on this? Yes. The author then says, وَيُصَلِّ الْمَرِيضُ قَائِمًا. Those who are ill should pray standing. ثُمَّ قَاعِدًا. Then sitting down. ثُمَّ عَلَى جَنْبٍ. Then lying upon their sides. In other words, as if the author is saying it's mandatory to pray standing up if you can, and if not sitting, and if not lying down. There's a lot of issues in this one small simple paragraph. Many. First and foremost, some ulama may say that if you can move your eyes, some ulama some ulama, they may say that if you can move your eyes, then you have to do what? Pray. You have to pray if you can move your eyes. Khalid. Some of them say, if you can't move your eyes, but you can pray with your heart and make the motions in your mind, then they say you must offer the salah. We understand this? This is not the author's madhab. From the adillah that he, sees to be strong and correct in the principles of the Sharia, he sees that it isn't mandatory to pray if a person cannot make ishara, whether it's with a hand, head, something like this. Any ishara, signal or movement, he says, you don't have to pray. You're exempt from the salah. Everybody clear on this? You understand this point?
If he said like, if you have even like taqa for ishara, he said no, ishara.
If you can't do the ishara, taskut. That's his madhab. And we explained in the previous classes.
Ishara including head, eyes, and
Al-Zahir, what is apparent, is that he's talking about a bodily ishara. We said that which is what? Apparent. Al-Zahir.
including eyes, right?
La. Al-Zahir, what is apparent, is he's talking about bodily ishara. Because the eyes, perhaps, sometimes they're called, or it could be called an ishara with one's eyes. Perhaps. However, the question is, when can a person not move his eyes and still have his mental faculties? When is the time in which a person is lying down and he can't move his or her eyes, but they're still awake and conscious? Very seldom, extremely, where he or she is awake, conscious, mentally sane, and they can't move their eyes. That is, I'm not an expert in medicine at all, and I'm not trying to act and pretend as if I am. I just find that to be very implausible, where a person is awake and they can't move their eyes, but they can hear what's being said and they know what's going on. So that which is, so we say this is a context clue to prove that the author is talking about what, Abu Hanif? Ishara, hand, head, back, etc. You can't move, no prayer. That was apparent from the speech of the author, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Moving on, or before we move on, we also explained in the previous classes what is meant by the word madhab. That the word madhab has a general meaning and it has a specific meaning. Before we move on, before we answer the question, Sheikh, we say word madhab has a general meaning. Ma dhahaba ilayhi fulan. That which fulan goes to, the view that he adopts, and has a specific meaning, which means or is a majorly detailed, matured school of fiqh, in which the scholar has students, disciples, who wrote down his views, his opinions, recorded them, and they passed them on to the next generation. And in most cases, they recorded the views of that imam from A to Z, from purification of Sa'id to writing wills. On everything, most of the fiqh issues, or the major fiqh issues, and also the students, they branched off. Farra'u. They took the general statement of the imam and his principles. We do not accept mursal hadiths. We do not take the statements of opinion of Sahaba. That's a principle. That's a principle. For example, I say my madhab. Stay with me. I say my madhab. An opinion of a Sahabi is not dalil. Everybody clear on this? Hypothetically, what an opinion, what a Sahabi says, whether it's Abu Bakr, Aisha, Ibn Mas'ud, the person who's sick should pray like this. Aisha said that you have to shorten your prayers in the salah when you travel. For example, in my madhab, I say we do not accept that as legal proof. Everybody clear on this? And the students, they took those principles and they went even further. And they dealt with issues that the imam didn't directly speak on. And those views, those principles were, we said, written down, compiled, and they continue to enhance them. Just like a martial arts school. Just like a school of martial arts. He was the grand master, so on and so forth. He had his students. They created another style, another technique, another blow, etc. And the school continued to grow and advance until it reaches 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years later. There's a long list, a legacy, a pedigree of ulama of this madhab that explained the books, poems, short books, long books, big volumes, fatawa. That is a specific meaning of the word what? Madhab. And we say from the most famous of them, from the most well-known of them, from the most well-developed are the madhabs of the four, but not the only madhabs. They weren't just 4 imams, as some people mistakenly think. It weren't just 4 imams. There were many ulama who came before them and after them. Everybody clear on this? So we said the 2 general meanings of the word, or 2 meanings of the word madhab. So when we say the author's madhab, we're not talking about Shafi'i rahimahullah, who died in the beginning of the 3rd century and had hundreds if not thousands of ulama who came after him and serviced his madhab until he made it into a masterful school that it is today. Or Abu Hanifa, or Malik, or Ahmed. Everybody clear on this? We read the fatwa of Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says, for example, that it is haram to seek the help of the kuffar in the times of war. The kuffar were not allowed to be brought to the Arabian Peninsula. Mathalan, this is an example, is what he said. We're reading this fatwa and we say this is the madhab of Shaykh al-Albani. Not meaning that he has a systematic set of, but that was his what? His view on that issue. مَا ذَهَبَ إِلَيْهِ. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he said that when you pray, go down with your hands before your knees. It's obligatory to put your hands first. That is the everybody clear on this? So therefore, we say what? When you read the book, and it's just an example. It's just an example for things to become clear. When you read the book, the description of the Prophet's prayer, it is incorrect to say that I'm what? I'm not studying the madhab, because you are studying the madhab. You're studying a list of selections of Shaykh al-Albani. What he selected based off of the hadiths. The hadiths that he chose. So it's an in and out question. From one aspect, you're not studying the madhab, because he's basing his views off of what? Hadiths. The Prophet, Shaykh al-Albani says, not me, he says, move the finger like this, vigorously, based off of the hadith. But there may have been another alim who didn't consider that to be sahih, and he says, aywa. So when you read that Shaykh al-Albani says, move the finger, and he mentions his hadith, that is the what? It's the madhab of Shaykh al-Albani, but he's giving you ahsan, the dalil. See how the misunderstanding comes? It's the misconception comes. It's haram to study a madhab. It's a bid'ah. You are reading a madhab. Tarjihat al-Shaykh al-Albani. These are the selected views of al-Albani. Regardless, whether it's correct, incorrect, whether it's a hadith, sahih or not, he's giving you the hadith. That's the difference of that book. Is that he's giving you the beef on the plate. Sunnah, hadith. Clear? Scholars of hadith, they differ, or they may differ on some issues of those hadiths. Is it sahih or not? This is what al-Albani rahimahullah, that great imam, what he believed to be most authentic, and what he believed to be most usable in that issue. Everybody clear on this? Fadal Shaykh.
2 questions. One is, when you, let's say, read the mazhab of Albani, and he said just do the finger like this, and you find a dalil from his book or from his mazhab, and it's connected to the hadith. So in that case, you follow the mazhab of his, or you follow the hadith in that case?
In reality, you're following the hadith.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. However,
You read the mazhab of him.
even if so, you're following the hadith. However, the issue is, Shaykh, is what? Is that what if there is another hadith that states that the Prophet ﷺ only pointed? So, we have a hadith that says, yuharrikuha. He moved it. Imam Ahmed, or some people, they quote Imam Ahmed, said it vigorously, shadidan. So, then we have another narration of the Prophet's prayer that says, yushiru faqat. He just pointed and not moved. So, we have 2 hadiths. If you move your finger like this, you have selected one hadith. Regardless whether Albani took it or not, but that's your what? That's your madhab, and that's also the madhab of the author, Shaykh Albani. Or Shaykh Albani, he may say, keep the finger still. There are 2 hadiths. If you don't move it, you're not following the one that says, move it. So you're following the hadith, and you're also following his his selected madhab, what he feels is the rajih, because there are certain issues that in certain madhabs of people of the past in which there is no hadith to support. We said what? There is no hadith to support. And there's sometimes they use a statement of one of the companions, such as the madhab of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, that states when a woman offers the salah, they say she should be together. Everybody understand this? Nafis? Tight.
She should be together.
Nah, in other words, we may say, hypothetically, hadith that say when you offer the salah, a man's arm should be like this. Spread like this. And in some ulama, such as the Hanbali George, they said a woman should pray like تَضُمُّ نَفْسَهَا. She shouldn't be spread out. She should be like this. Why do they say this? Is the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ? No. The Prophet ﷺ said, pray like you see me praying. And that's what he did with his arms. Imam Ahmed, from his madhab, is that he takes the what? Ahsant. The views of the Sahaba, if there's nothing that goes against it. So they say, this is what they say, that Aisha, our mother, radiallahu anha, when she prayed, she used to gather herself. Everybody clear on this? So there's some opinions, some madhabs that we say that are not supported by hadiths. Sometimes it's supported by what the companions did. Sometimes Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he did what the people of Medina did. Abu Hanifa or others, they may use outward clear logic. They do what? Clear logic. What makes sense is only sensible. Okay? And there's sometimes in which there are opinions and madhabs which clearly go against hadith. Clearly go against hadith. Such as a woman marrying herself without a wali. They say that a woman, she can buy and sell. She's of age. Why can't she marry herself? Makes total sense. Makes total sense. However, we have a that says لا نكاح إلا بولي. لا ينكح المحرم ولا ينكح. That's another proof. The muhrim is not to yunkih, marry off someone. So now, but then you have another level is what are those who say that hadith is not sahih? So it can go. It's like it needs a mind of a student. But the point that we're trying to get to is what is that there lies no doubt there's some madhabs which they have views and opinions which go against sunnah. So if you're taking the book of Shaykh al-Bahiyyah rahimahullah, there lies no doubt, walhamdulillah, from the benefits of that book is that every point that he says, he's bringing you a what? Hadith. Whether it's another hadith that clashes, whether hadith is difference of opinion, da'if, al-muhim, he's bringing you a what? So what he's doing is, you're getting connected to hadith and sunnah, and at the same time, you're also studying a selected compilation of his madhab, his opinion. Don't do this because of the hadith. Pray like this because of the hadith. Pray like that because of it. Regardless of those hadith being sahih, what the other ulama say, he's basing it directly off of what? Hadith. Everybody understand? So it's a yes or no answer. So, yani, the point we always try to make is that you have to be careful what you say. Everybody clear on this? And it's very dangerous to put certain tools into the hands of a general person. Somebody that, wallah, just accepted Islam last month. He reads, no, burn the book, get rid of it. Because of this. See, it says right there, undermine. And he doesn't have the proper cultivation, the proper understanding, the proper nurturing. It's like you put a major weapon, a sniper's rifle, into the hand of a private. He just signed up. And you put a major tool of war in his hands. It's very, very dangerous. And it doesn't mean that that tool is bad. But it's not suitable for that person who's just learning how to shine his shoes and march in the morning. It doesn't work like that. This is a skilled marksman. Years of training and learning and development to use that weapon. Pinpoint accuracy. You can't put that in the hands of a person, not only without the skill, but most importantly with the discipline. The what? Discipline. That's muhim jiddan. Is that not only when you study for years under a teacher, you get knowledge and experience, but you learn what? Discipline. You have disciplined yourself. Not to say anything and go crazy and disrespect the people of knowledge and go against things, but you have dabt al-nafs. You have dabt al-nafs, discipline. Just like in the army. Or just like they say in martial arts. Discipline. There's certain moves and techniques that you can't learn until years go by. Not because you can't do the technique, you don't have enough strength, but because you're undeserving of that technique. Because you haven't proved to the sensei your discipline. I have to have seen you for years without getting into fights and abusing people and harming people. Then I'll teach you this dangerous technique. Because you have proven to me that you have a level of what? Discipline. It's no different in knowledge. So that is one of the reasons why the chaos has befallen the communities, especially the urban communities. Putting things in people's hands without discipline. And as we know, the famous verse in the translation of the gospel, the New Testament, what does it say? It says, do not cast thy pearls among swine. Do not cast thy pearls among swine. Now you may say, how is this guy quoting from the Bible? We say this was a statement of some of the Salaf Salih as well. They also said this. It says, إِنَّ وَاضِعَ الْعِلْمِ عِنْدَ غَيْرِ أَهْلِهِ كَمُقَلِّدِ الْخَنَازِيرِ اللُّؤْلُؤُ أو كما قال. He said, those who put knowledge in an improper place is like the one who places a pearl necklace around a pig. It's deep. How it was said then and also said by some of the Sahaba. So you don't put your pearls among swine. You don't put a valued knowledge among someone that has no background, no integrity, no equity, no discipline, no respect. You don't do that. It's chaos. And that is exactly what happened in the urban communities. His brother was overseas, Egypt, a year, 2 years, come back, everything's bid'ah, everything's haram, it's haram to study madhab, and the miskeen, poor individual doesn't realize, when he was in Egypt, he was studying what? Of a scholar who came in the 14th century, but it's haram to study madhab of a scholar who's in the 2nd century. That doesn't make sense. So, we have to have proper fahm, proper understanding. Everybody clear on this? So that's the first issue. We said what? Is that there is a general and a specific meaning of the word madhab. Whether it's permissible or not to study it, to follow it, but there is a fahm. Fahm. And that's the biggest key, is having fahm, is understanding. Khair inshallah. Let's move on. Next question, Sheikh.
Next question was about salah. What kind of salah will become, like when you say exempt in different like in different situation, the salah will be exempt. So what salah, like salah faraz, sunnah,
fard,
or witr,
fard.
What about sunnah?
Well, you don't have to pray fard, you don't have to pray sunnah. But here the author he's mentioning.
I think you not got my question.
The question is clear, Sheikh. The author he's mentioning what? If a person can't move, he's not going to make sunnah prayers. If he can't even move to make a fard prayer.
My question is a little.
Fadal.
That is another issue. Like somebody not move, and they are exempt from farz salah.
Okay.
But let's say I'm moving.
Okay.
I'm good. Whether I can exempt from sunnah or from witr in another situation?
You shouldn't even pray. You shouldn't even be thinking about sunnah prayers. If you can't move to make fard prayer,
the move is enough. Move is different issue. I say if I can move.
If you can move.
Right now, for example, like in this situation, there is any situation or any relief, do not pray sunnah.
Right.
That is my concern.
Clear. If you can move, if you can pray with difficulty, the fard prayer, is there any relief from making the sunnah prayer? We say, even when you're sick,
I think you
have to explain it.
That is finished. If you can move or some problem, you are exempt from farz.
Clear.
But if you can pray farz,
you can pray fard.
Right now, for example, the situation right now there is any situation beside that we cannot pray the sunnah?
Right. Is there any situation in which you cannot pray sunnah when you're healthy, you're saying?
Yeah, I'm healthy right now, so it's permissible for me to
we
not
say,
pray.
When
are you exempt?
The prayer, we say that the prayer, the Prophet goes back to what we explained, Luke Marjan. He says, هل علي غيرها؟ قال لا إلا أن تطوع. He says, are there any prayers besides the 5? No, unless you want to do extra. So there is no prayer besides the 5 daily salah, in which you're forced to make, except for what some ulama say with regards to witr. Some ulama, they say with regards to what? Witr. Or certain prayers such as hadithdisciple, some ulama. But we're talking about standard, continual prayer. It's never mandatory. However, a believer with sound iman is not a person that will continually leave off sunnah prayers with sound iman. You may get busy, you may be sick, you may be doing something really extreme, but you have the ability to pray sunnah prayers and you don't do it continually, something's wrong with your iman.
So here,
because it's something so basic.
Don't mind these brothers, but I noticed from several days, yes, it's not a make objection, just for improvement. I'm just mentioning this thing for improvement. Like today, this brother he not pray. Don't mind. I wanna just use it for correction. This brother he not pray. This brother he not pray. This brother he not pray. And this I'm looking from several days. Different people they not pray, especially Maghrib Sunnah. So my concern is this. It's bothering me too much. For example, I'm just coming from very far just to take education. So I'm thinking, what is the purpose of education? Like why we are learning Sunnah. So in my mind, I'm learning the Sunnah for this reason, to learn and apply that thing on myself. So I will be more better. So day by day, I will increase my iman like this.
No doubt.
Now, once I learn something that it's supposed to be do, and still I'm not doing that thing, so in my mind, I say, you are more, punishable for that. When you not know something, maybe this Allah will give you less punish. But
yeah,
you just know
the
something.
reminder, we say what? The reminder, so we all need to be reminded.
But again, I say, don't
that's
consider it addiction.
That's
I
sure
wanna-
most people, 99% of the time, do pray. Perhaps they were praying while you pray. That's perhaps. But
Perhaps they saved it to go home. And
it was
this
a good, it was a very
No.
good reminder.
I
Maghrib pray
what's important?
before Isha.
Ikhwan, what's important? What's important? What Iman? The benefit, the reminder, benefits the believer. Whether you made the sunnah, whether you don't make the sunnah for him to see. That's first and foremost. You make the sunnah for Allah. So if the sheikh saw you, if he didn't see you, whether you make him or you don't harm him, the reminder won't harm anyone. The reminder won't what? Harm anyone. That's the bottom line. So therefore, it's upon all of us to learn and implement the basics of what we learn. Start with myself firstly. Start with myself first, before Nafis, before you, for anybody. For us to try to only seek ilm, to practice ilm. And the benefit, the reminder benefits the believer, and alhamdulillah, there lies no doubt that no matter what is the case, whether you prayed him, whether you didn't pray him, whether the sheikh saw you or not, him, he's for Allah, it's only from love and concern. It's a good thing, whether that helps. And we know that sometimes in the feast, when you love someone, it doesn't always come out the easiest way. There's no doubt about that. And that's not a condition for love either, as many people think. Like your father, he loves you more than any other man. Is he always the kindness to you? No. Sometimes his harshness and roughness is a proof for his love. So this is a good thing. Khair inshallah. So, now, this is a concept here. We have the author. He said that the person who's ill is to pray standing up. Sahih? If he can't pray standing up, then he should do what? And if not, then he should lie down. Now, Khalid, I need you to come. Now, the question is, Khalid, what determines who is, I need you to keep good posture. No, don't sit down, there you go. There you go, alhamdulillah. What is marid? What is ill? Sick, dying, coughing, falling over, rolling over, extreme pain, or toothache, a headache, or if I punched you, what would happen to make you, quote unquote, marid, ill? Very important. Many Muslims, they think they can't sit down unless they're about to die on their last leg. Some Muslims, they feel they cannot pray lying down unless they're extremely ill. In other words, let's make an example. Khalid, healthy, strong, mashallah, nothing is ill, but he had a toothache. So he can stand up, fine, but make ruku'. My tooth is throbbing. My head, my neck, pinched nerves. I can stand fine, but the moment I make ruku', is what? Illness. Or he's fine standing up and making ruku', but when he bends down, how he goes to the sujood, my knees, subhanAllah, my knee messed up, ACL or whatever the case may be. He can't make proper sujood. Everybody understands, or he can't sit into shahud, his foot, etc. So the question is, what necessitates marid? That's firstly. Secondly, we have several levels with regards to illness and sickness. The first level is that which is called, or we'll start from the worst, is that what you call what? Al-Ajaz. Al-Ajaz is incapability. You can't do it. I cannot stand in the salah. He doesn't have the ability. He can't stand up. That's how he's paralyzed. He can't stand in the salah. Next one is, we say, mashaqqa, difficulty in standing in the salah. Stand up. He can stand, but it's what? Difficult. It's burdensome. Then we have an issue of haja, a need to stand in the salah. And in other words, it's something temporarily wrong with my knee for something, and I got to stand up for a second to keep the blood flowing. I can stand up. It's not that burdensome, but I have a need, something I have to do. All right, and the ajaz, incapability, also pertains to durura, in which a person is compelled by necessity. Let's say, for example, a ruling of a woman leaving her home. Can a woman leave her house without her husband's permission? Or with her husband's permission, can a woman even leave her house? Because Allah says, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Allah says, stay in your homes. That's what the Quran Kareem says. وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Aisha radiallahu anha narrated, the Prophet ﷺ, she says, that you're allowed to leave for your haja. So if a woman has a need to go to the market to take her kids to school, or if a woman has necessity, durura, she's compelled, I have to leave the house. Somebody is dying, we have no food, we have no heat, and there's also something which she just wants to leave without a need, without a necessity. I'm trying to make an example of these different levels. It's very crucial with regards to the prayer. He may be able to stand, but with a difficulty. He may not be able to stand, or he may have a need to sit down for a specific reason. Everybody clear on this? Everybody clear on this on what is marid? Just like fasting, there's no different than fasting. When is it permissible to break your fast? When you're sick. You have to be dying. We just open up the what? The lens and the scope. Now, it says qa'iman, standing up. What does that mean? You stand up normally. Is it permissible, hold the microphone, or is it from the sunnah, as some people do? They stand, Allahu Akbar, and then when it comes to ruku' or something, and they do this, and then the sujood, they sit down. Is that permissible? Or should a person